Welcome to Home Care, Doors Open, where we discuss licensing, operations, and scaling your home care business. Whether you're just opening your doors or looking to unlock new doors to growth and success, this podcast is for you. Let's begin.
Hello, everybody. This is Lucas Carroll from the Business of Senior Care, and we're back with another episode of Home Care Doors Open. Super excited today. We have a special guest, Jen Chaney, who is the Vice President of Franchise Development at Right at Home. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into some topics about your franchise network, the brand that you represent, learning about many of the successful things that you guys have going on, what makes you guys special as a franchise network, and other things. But first, I just wanted to see if you would share with our audience a little bit about your background. You have some extensive background in franchising, not just in home care, that really kind of lends to our conversation. So maybe share with us kind of what your previous experience are that led up to your VP role now.
Yes, happy to. So let's see, right out of college, many moons ago, I sold residential real estate for about 10 years. So that's where I started in the world of sales. Was approached by someone after 10 years of selling real estate to say, if you're thinking about a career change, there's a job opening at Scooter's Coffee in a franchise sales role. And me and having real estate, sales experience might be a natural fit, but look into it and see what you think. So, and I think in most cases, people who are in franchising most of the time kind of finds them instead of you finding franchising, right? So I took the job with Scooter's Coffee and I was there for 7 years. And I learned so much, grew in my role, was in franchise development the entire 7 years that I was there, and then decided to make a change, a completely different business model. And I made the jump into senior care. And I've been with Right at Home for about 5 years now, also in franchise development.
Awesome. What was the transition like? It's franchising is similar, but the two different types of businesses could be a little bit different.
Yeah.
What's some differences that you've seen?
Well, I mean, it's I tell people I'm basically doing the same thing here at Right at Home as I was doing at Scooter's Coffee, which is, franchise sales, franchise development, a little bit different from the aspect of the business models are different. And in franchise development at Scooter's Coffee, it was franchise sales, real estate, and construction. Now, we don't have the real estate and construction part here at Right at Home, but drastically different business model. So that was really the learning curve for me, was learning a completely new business. Drive-through coffee and senior care couldn't be more opposite. So that was really the biggest change for me, and the biggest learning curve was really getting to know this business. I had a personal experience. My sisters and I were a personal caregiver for my mother in the final months of her life. So I discovered this business just really from a customer point of view, where we had a caregiver caring for my mother. So when this opportunity opened up to join Right at Home in this role, I jumped at the chance.
That's awesome. I was just going to ask if it came from a personal experience. So many of the folks, we work with hundreds of home care owners throughout the year that are starting the business, and that's one of the questions is, how do you even get into this? And still, with how big, my perspective is with how big home care is as an industry, there are still people that don't even know that this type of service exists. And then they stumble through a family member, they fall backwards into this world of home care from like a case manager maybe, or a friend, or the online. And they're like, there's this service set up where people will come in, and caring and loving and wonderful caregivers will come in to provide support and love for your family member. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I wonder if there are other businesses, are there franchises? And then it just starts this whole journey for people, which I'm sure with your prospects and then eventual franchisees maybe have similar experiences like you.
It's so true. And I would argue that 99% of the people who join Right at Home as a franchise owner have some type of relatable story where it's either they themselves were a caregiver or they had a family member who received care from a caregiver. Um, some type of meaningful story where um, the work of a caregiver impacted their life either directly or indirectly. And then coming to the realization, like, I can be a business owner of a business just like this, where it's fulfilling, it's rewarding, and I'm going to make a difference on other people's lives, and not only the life of the family that I'm providing care to, um, but the entire family, the client themselves, and so many people, the people that you employ. It's just overall a great experience for so many people, more so than you initially know when you try the Right at Home system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I wanted to ask just a little bit about the brand, the network. You represent an amazing brand at Right at Home, that's across North America. And I'm curious for you, could you give us a size and scope? For our folks that come to us, there are a lot of independents. Some people are considering franchises. Some people aren't really familiar with the franchise model and what it includes and what it doesn't, and trying to make decisions. So like for a potential lead for maybe a franchise, what if you were telling them like the size and scope of the network, what does that look like?
Oh, gosh, at this point, here in the United States, last I checked, we have about 500 and maybe 45 or 50 territories here in the United States.
That's amazing.
Right at Home territories, owned and operated by multiple franchise owners. Unique franchise owners, last I checked, were at upper 200s, maybe 285 unique franchise owners owning and operating 550-ish territories across the United States. Internationally, we have about 200 territories in other parts of the world. So collectively, we're looking at 750 territories all over the globe, including the United States. So a pretty big footprint. We've been around. Next year is our 25th year of franchising, our 30th year being a brand. So we have a big milestone year next year. We set annual goals each year to grow the franchise footprint, whether that's international or domestic here in the United States, franchise owned and corporate owned locations. At this point, we have between 5 and 10 corporate owned locations. Last I checked, I think that we are sitting at around 7 or 8 corporate owned locations.
Very good. That's amazing. That's an amazing footprint for Right at Home. The candidates, like for the candidates, the people that you're potentially interested in franchising and home care, when you talk to a couple of things there, when you talk to them about the industry, like what does it look like for home care and senior care in now and in the future in terms of the demand for this type of business, for the potential for somebody to start their own home care company?
Yeah, so this answer is pretty simple, and actually, it's usually not something that I have to tell people when they come to us. They're usually coming to us saying to us, "Listen, I've done my research on the baby boomer population. I know what the population is now, and I know what it's projected to be in the near future, and it's going to be growing substantially over the course of the next 10 years or so." Baby boomers really right now are still relatively young. They're going to continue to age. So the Right at Home business is pretty great right now, but looking ahead at the future, and as the population ages and grows, it's just going to become more and more of an opportunity as we look into the future and as people age, especially the baby boomer population.
Absolutely. You've heard that 10,000 seniors turn 65 every day, and every 8 minutes somebody turns 65. I heard a newer one recently that in the year 2031 that there'll be more in the U.S. The population of seniors 65 plus will be greater than the population of kids up to 18 years of age, and that's the first time in history that that's ever happened. So staggering numbers for taking care of our seniors. And they're used to, I mean, you probably speak to this to candidates all the time. The baby boomers are used to going out and finding services to help to support them. versus the generation above them, where it's difficult for them to engage in a service that's not family or something like that.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
Um, when you're talking to so a little bit more on candidates, where where do where do you have candidates? Where do they come from? Where are people that are interested in a home care agency? Is there any rhyme or reason that you found for their backgrounds and life experiences and things that led them to this journey?
Boy, we have all walks of life that have joined the Right at Home system. And let me just start by saying it's not required for you to have healthcare experience. It's not required for you to have management experience, business ownership experience. We've got financial requirements. You have to have a certain, amount of liquid capital available to purchase a business. But one of the benefits of joining a franchise system is that you've got all the coaching and the help and the support and the education, all the things for us to train you and teach you to be a right at home franchise owner. But to answer your question directly, I would say no, there is no specific rhyme or reason. Like typically our owners, are nurses that have been working as a nurse for the past 30 years. They've decided I want to own my own business. That is not, that's a myth I would like to bust. We've got, I actually just spoke to somebody yesterday who has been a nurse for 30 years. That's why I use that example. And she's excited to become a right at home franchise owner. However, we have another individual that we just approved for franchise ownership that has absolutely no healthcare experience at all whatsoever. Came from corporate America, and this is just something that has always been a passion of his, something that is very meaningful to him, that's made an impact on his life. And he's decided he wants to become an entrepreneur. And he did all of his research and all the different types of franchise concepts that he can, in which he can be a franchise owner, and narrowed it down to senior care. And even when you've narrowed it down to senior care, you have a lot of options. So doing your research on which company is the best fit for you is incredibly critical for you to do if you're exploring franchise opportunities, because you've got a lot of options, but not all are going to be the best fit for you and what you're looking for.
This episode is powered by the Business of Senior Care. The Business of Senior Care helps home care, home health, and hospice companies obtain their state home care license and accreditation through one-on-one consulting, fully customized policies, and years of expertise. To learn more, visit thebizofseniorcare.com. And now, back to our episode.
If it's not background and experiences, which is that's a great perspective, are there some, I don't know, like if somebody's getting into this game, if there's some common character traits, some common strengths, some common something that binds successful home care owners together? I don't know if I'm asking that correctly, but looking for some commonalities.
Yes. Yep. And that's also another easy answer for me. So it's really important to write at home that you've got the obvious, qualities, the things that you're looking for in business ownership. Obvious things being, I want to be my own boss. I want a business that's rewarding in multiple ways. But what is very important to us that you have to have as a right at home franchise owner is what I call a compelling reason. So this type of business, it's a very emotional business. You're dealing with seniors and adults with disabilities and their families, and their emotional times. And, sometimes you have to deal with death, and sometimes, things aren't always rainbows and butterflies and sunshine. I suppose that is the case in any business ownership. But specifically, when you're caring for seniors and adults with disabilities, you as the franchise owner, you have to have a heart for this. You have to have a passion for this. You have to be a relationship type of person. You have to be able to build connections with, people in your community and the families that you're providing services to. It's incredibly important to have that and to possess that in yourself, to have that quality, because it'll be very challenging for you if you don't possess that. I actually did visit with somebody once when I asked him the question, tell me about your compelling reason. He actually said, it really doesn't matter to me that, if it's a senior care franchise or if it's a pizza franchise, it doesn't matter to me what the business is. I am looking to check these 3 boxes. And I had to tell him, then right at home is not the right fit for you, because it has to be just as equally as important that this is the type of business that you want to be in and it's meaningful to you, just as important as the obvious things and checking those boxes. It has to be up there right at the top of the others.
Oh, that's perfect. You narrowed it down to just the specific characteristics of the type of person, and that's awesome. Probably because I mean, just so much experience that you have, but just having those conversations with candidates again and again and again, and trying to find their why, trying to find their purpose. Because in that initial startup, and you probably would agree, is that when you're in that first year of business and the phone is ringing on a Friday night, or you're trying to get a caregiver to work a shift or something like that, you might often reflect on your why, and
Yes.
and and making sure that it's important to you. So that's a huge driver. I could see how that would be a huge decision maker or helper for somebody looking to get into the Right at Home franchise.
Yeah, and it's super important to when we're visiting with people who are interested in joining Right at Home. We are so transparent and upfront on here are the realistic expectations for business ownership with Right at Home. And I actually do use that example. Let's pretend you opened your business last week and it's 10 o'clock at night and you get a call from a caregiver that can't show up for their shift. And you don't have another backup caregiver. What are you going to do as a business owner? The nurse that I spoke to yesterday, she's like, I'm getting in my car and I'm going to go fill in to be a caregiver because that's what I'm going to do as a business owner. I wouldn't have it any other way. I can't leave the client, high and dry without a caregiver and somebody to care for them because that's what I will do as a business owner. I actually had another phone call months ago with a candidate where she was like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't be a caregiver. Like, well, then I don't believe that this is the right fit for you because that's something that you may have to do every now and then. I'm not saying you have to be a caregiver as a Right at Home franchise owner. You're one person. You're going to have a lot of caregivers. You're going to have a lot of, great staff to help you and support you. But you as the business owner, it's really difficult for you to be in the business. You want to work on the business.
That's perfect. I have one more follow-up question on that, and then I wanted to ask you about the medical part. I know you mentioned having conversations with a nurse and this sort of continuum of care between home care and home health. Um, but the one question for the franchise part is the process and support. So when you're having conversations with somebody and they're like, okay, from a franchisor perspective, coming on board with Right at Home, what does that support system look like to help me get started, to help me get going with the doors open, and to help me in that first year and certainly down the road, but that initial kind of support system?
Yeah, so when you join the Right at Home system, you signed your franchise agreement, you're officially part of our system. We don't skip a beat. I mean, you start right away on your onboarding and training. You're going to meet with who your onboarding project manager will be, and we will spell out an incredibly detailed timeline filled with, last I checked, 10 or 11 milestones that we spell out. Say, here are the 10 milestones between now and when your business opens, and not only actually it doesn't end when your business opens, even months after your business opens, you're going to stay with your onboarding project manager leading up to business opening and then after the business has opened so that we can stay with you as you are, hiring those first caregivers and getting those first clients and, signing those first contracts and, as the business grows and, making the next hire. So we're going to stay with you through all of that. But it's a lot of instructor-led, self-led, online, leading up to an entire week here in Omaha for what we call Residence Week, where it's a week of in-person training, timed just right so that you actually come to Omaha right before your business opens. And then, of course, before that, if you are in a licensure state, we're going to assist you with submitting that licensure application. We have a licensure specialist on staff here who is wonderful, who's going to help you with that licensure application. You want to make sure, obviously, that you have your license in hand before your business opens, but we also do require that you have that license in hand even before you come to training in Residence Week, so that shortly thereafter you attend Residence Week, you can go home, open your office, and you're up and running.
Perfect. Thanks for explaining that, because I think it's just emphasizes the support that you guys provide for onboarding and after that, of course. Um, the medical part. So I wanted to kind of get your perspective. What I see in the industry is a continuum between what's traditionally non-medical home care and then skilled home health, that they used to be in two separate buckets, and now they kind of get closer and closer together, where maybe a non-medical traditional non-medical home care agency could have a registered nurse to do some private duty nursing or do some medication setup, or depending on the licensure in the state. Um, do you see from that, what do you see from your perspective in terms of people that are interested, maybe the existing network or new people coming in along that continuum between the non-medical and then skilled home health?
Yeah, so I would say that the people that are interested in joining Right at Home, that's a frequently asked question that we receive. Like, how much of this business is, actual medical care in addition to the non-medical private pay care? How much of it is, like more of the skilled nursing part? And my answer is a very small percentage of our existing franchise owners offer that third tier specialized nursing services level of care, is how we describe it. The majority of our franchise owners are providing companion and personal care, non-medical private pay. We have a lot of franchise owners that have taken advantage of VA program, government contracts through that avenue. But the third tier of specialized nursing services, very small percentage. I want to say less than 3% of our franchise owners are providing that level of care. And as you mentioned, some franchise owners choose to do that. Some franchise owners choose not to do that. And your reasons for choosing to do it and not to do it are all relative. But, in order to do that level of care, it's additional licensing, credentialing, potentially additional hires, additional cost. You just have to do the research, and you of course, we will help you and support you in that if that's what you want to do as a franchise owner. But making sure that you are doing it, per the rules and regulations of your state and under the proper licensure and credentialing that you need.
Awesome. Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. Like, sometimes it depends on, just like you're saying, the state licensure and even the owners, the franchise owner's willingness or wanting to get into
Yep,
to kind
yep.
of skilled more type care. And so kind of what I just wanted to close with just a couple of questions about licensing, just because that's the world that we live in, for licensing and the conversations with somebody starting out with a brand new franchise, brand new business. What kind of questions do they have? And you mentioned the support system that's already in place for licensure, but what kind of roadblocks can they come to experience, and kind of what is that whole licensing piece, depending on, of course, what state they're in?
Yes. So on our discovery day, so when you come to Right at Home Discovery Day, you actually will meet. You'll have a one. If you are in a licensure state, you will meet with our licensure specialist on Discovery Day to talk about, okay, so you live in, just for example, the state of Florida. This is what the licensure application process looks like in the state of Florida. Here's how you do it. We're going to help and support you. You submit it. This is approximately how long it takes. This is the type of license you will receive. This is the cost to do it. So we'll walk through high level what that licensure application looks like on Discovery Day. Now, if you are approved and you move forward, then right away, we're going to help you put together that licensure application and submit it. Because receiving your license is probably the biggest kind of question mark on how long it's going to take to process. So we get that application in right away so that we can work on other things while your license application is processing. And each state is different. It depends on what, as you said, it depends on which state you are in. Some license application processes will take, a month. Others will take, 3 or 4 months. It depends on what the actual license is and what state it is, just how long it's going to take for you to receive that license. But make no mistake, as part of joining the Right at Home system, we are there to help you and support you. And that's usually a very big fear that people have, like, oh my gosh, I'm interested in franchising in this state. It's a license state, and I have no idea where to start, no idea what to do. I'm super nervous. What if I mess up on the application? Like, it's okay. We are going to help you and support you through that process as well. So,
Yeah. And that I do have to point out, just working with a number of franchise networks, that support system for licensure that Right at Home has is pretty unique. Some, especially if you're an independent getting out there, and maybe some others are kind of like, I wish you the best luck with licensure and check in, but it's so critical and timing up with the opening your office. Like obviously you can't fully open until you have that license to provide care, and timing that and starting from the very beginning is pretty unique. So kudos to your team on the jump, getting started on the licensure piece. Uh, the last question I'm thinking of is just kind of what, I want to get your perspective on the horizon for home care and for right at home as we wind down 24 into 25. From what does that look like? What's the growth look like? What's the industry look like? What are you seeing in terms of where we're headed?
So, to give you a kind of a status on what's going on right now here at Right at Home, and really what has happened over the course of the past year or two, we put together some pretty hefty goals to grow the Right at Home brand in multiple ways. Growing the footprint and growing hours and revenue, and our existing franchise owners and helping them grow. Just aggressive growth plans. In which we met our goals last year as franchise development speaking. We have already exceeded our annual goal this year, and it's to put a timestamp on this, it's September.
Awesome.
We've already completely busted our December goal, which is super exciting. And we don't have any intentions to slow down either. I think it's a combination between having a really fantastic marketing initiative out there about the Right at Home franchise opportunity in areas where we do have territories available, looking for the right franchise owners, in conjunction with having just a really fantastic development team here at Right at Home. When you inquire about Right at Home franchise ownership, you're going to be well taken care of through this education and approval process. And then even after you sign your franchise agreement, I can't speak highly enough about all of the help and support you will receive as a Right at Home franchise owner. Which is validated during the education and approval process with Right at Home. So if you're interested in franchising with Right at Home, we actually do require that you talk to at least 3 existing franchise owners to talk to them about their experience being a Right at Home franchise owner. And that's the part of the process that I really love, because they're like, listen, if you have an opportunity to join Right at Home, take it, because it changed my life and I would do it all over again. So the future looks very bright here at Right at Home. And some people will say like, oh, Right at Home, it's been around for 25 years, 30 years, next year is our 30th anniversary. We still have plenty of territories left. And I would say all of those territories that we have in the United States that are open and available, they're full of seniors and adults with disabilities that need care. So when people ask me like, well, where are you focusing on the United States? I would say like, well, of the territories we have left, those are the areas that we're focusing on, right? So we don't have a specific initiative to say, hey, we're trying to sell this specific city, this specific state. We've got territories all over the United States that are open and available, and we're looking for franchise owners, and the future looks very bright here at Right at Home.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. It was great. This was great. Thank you for taking the time.
Yes.
I want to officially thank Jen Chaney for her time, VP of Fran Dev there at Right at Home. That was great. So thank you again so much. It was great to have you on.
Yes. Thanks, Lucas.
If you found this conversation valuable, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Business of Senior Care. We'll see you next time on Home Care. Doors open.